Welcome, thank you for being here. Okay, so just a little bit of an overview, if you don't mind. We have an opportunity tonight to share with you some of the work that the Calendar Review Committee has done over the last few months. And we're going to give you an overview of the role of the Calendar Review Committee, the things that we have accomplished as a group of 25 members. We're also going to, within that, we're going to cover the work we've done to create a fact sheet. We're going to cover the work we've done in regards to creating a survey that is currently out and running. It will be closing on November 15th. And then at the end, we are going to have an opportunity to collect community input. So again, we have our Director of Early Childhood and After School Programs, Kathleen, here tonight. And when we get to that point where we're receiving community input, she'll be taking extensive notes in regards to everybody's comments. So we really capture those so we can take that back to the Calendar Review Committee and discuss next steps. To start off, just want to give you a little overview of what the Calendar Review Committee is doing. First of all, it's a group of certificated, classified members of the new employees of the Newport Mesa Unified School District. We have parents that are involved with the Calendar Review Committee, district administrators, and also both of our employee bargaining unit members are represented on the Calendar Review Committee. Speaking of our employee bargaining units, I wanted to ask Dr. Britt Dowdy to come on up real quick and just introduce him and also have him share a little bit of the role of the bargaining units and the process that we've been dealing with in regards to the Calendar Review Committee. He's been very helpful in regards to developing a lot of the information that we've been able to produce so far.
So hello again, I'm Britt Dowdy, president of Newport Mesa Federation of Teachers, NMFT, which is, a lot of people call us the Teachers Union. And so the committee, as Dr. Suhr said, is made up of a group of different members of the community. And we want you to understand that the committee itself does a good job of trying to listen to all the different voices and trying to listen to people equally in terms of their opinions and comments and perspectives as we consider any kind of change to the calendar. However, ultimately what happens is the committee makes a recommendation based on kind of collectively done together, and then that recommendation moves forward to the employee groups, and it has moved forward as whatever that recommendation is, it has moved forward to the employee groups, and then that has to get decided through a negotiations process, which is between our union and the administration, and then ultimately goes out to a ratification vote, and that's part of just kind of the overall package of how everything works. So part of what we have to consider is impacts to other parts of the contract, and there may be specific things that happen and change. And then also if there were changes that happen for the classified employees who are the support staff of the district, then that has to be negotiated with CSEA, which is the Classified Employees Union. So we wanted to be clear about how that process works is that the committee makes a recommendation, but it's not a final decision. The other piece that we want to again emphasize to everyone, if you're taking the surveys, they are not a vote. They are a way to give feedback to the committee, and then the committee uses that information in trying to come up with a recommendation. And then the final piece, which I know Dr. Suhr, Dr. Bauermeister is going to mention again tonight, is your input tonight is extremely valuable. We're taking notes. We have members from the different constituencies here of the committee here tonight. We're listening and paying attention so that we can try to take all of that information together when we get back together later this month and making some decisions. And then also know that this is not a debate, so if somebody has a perspective different from you, that's great, but we're not trying to do a voting debate. We're just here to receive information from everybody, give you the chance to ask your questions, and if you have questions of us as a union or of the administration, please ask, and we'll try to address those. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dowdy. Tonight we're also fortunate to have Barry Friedland and the Costa Mesa Brief covering our event tonight, so we'd like to thank Barry for coming out and recording our event and capturing it so that it can reach an audience beyond the people who are here tonight. Again, it's really nice to work with a wonderful group of committed people, and we definitely have 25 people on the calendar review committee that are working really hard and very open-minded and looking at the potential of moving towards a collegiate calendar, but really digging into what are the concerns, what are the benefits, what are the questions, what information is needed. So the process has been fantastic so far. We've really developed, assess, and evaluate all the possible calendar options, and we're going to continue to do that once we have all the information from the survey and from our information meetings. And as Dr. Dowdy shared with you, the final decision does not rest with the calendar review committee. If there is a recommendation for a collegiate calendar to move forward, it would move into the negotiations process. And that would involve negotiating with the Newport Mesa Federation of Teachers and also our classified bargaining unit, CSEA. So what have we accomplished so far in the meetings that we've had this year? First of all, we have been able to make a recommendation for an 18-19 calendar, and that is a traditional calendar, as we've had for the numerous years recently. And no big changes. Right now, just to give you a little bit of context, because I want to frame it if you don't mind, Dr. Bauermeister is going to talk to you about the definition of what we've come up with as far as what does a collegiate calendar mean. But as it currently stands with our traditional calendar, there are a couple fundamental aspects that Dr. Bauermeister is going to talk about, but our current reality is we start school with students after Labor Day. That's one aspect of a traditional calendar. The other piece is that we have a winter break in the middle of the year, and after that winter break, we have 2 weeks of school, and then in that third week back is when finals takes place at the secondary level. So that's for grades 7 through 12, and the first semester officially ends that third week back after the winter break. And that's going to be important to kind of frame what are some of the aspects of a collegiate calendar. So that we have also developed that definition. We've developed the content of the fact sheet. So the fact sheet that you have available to you tonight and what has been distributed throughout this school community is a compilation of a lot of thought, we had a really great process. Something I want to really recognize the calendar review committee for is the amount of time that everybody has put into developing the content of the benefits, the concerns, the questions, and also information that is needed. We had a process in regards to doing that. First of all, we had different stations. One station was developing what we believe are, as a calendar review committee, what are the benefits? What do we believe are the concerns? And then what questions or more information is needed? So everyone kind of rotated through those. And then in our second meeting, when we came back, we really took a very close look. The benefits were developed, but also during that meeting, we had a number of questions and concerns and more information that is needed. So the process involved taking those, and we were able to categorize those into two different areas. The first one being, what are the issues associated with that first year as far as it being a transition issue, as compared to issues or questions or information that would be needed that would be ongoing. So everything was categorized into one or two of those groups. And then from there, we had that entire list of all the questions, all the concerns, all of the information that was needed, and we were able to categorize those into three different areas. First of all, are these questions or concerns or information that is needed, do they rise to the level of needing to be addressed on the fact sheet? Is this information, as the second part, is this information that is needed for the calendar review committee to really look at all aspects, but it didn't rise to the level of needing to be placed on the fact sheet? Or is the question or concern no longer a question or concern because some more information has been provided where it wasn't a concern anymore? So we took all that information, categorized it, and ultimately the fact sheet that's been developed is information that was agreed upon by the calendar review committee as either a benefit, a concern, a question, or information that is necessary for us to provide. So also, we've been able to establish the survey, and there was a lot of thought and work that went into that. It's a very straightforward, short survey, but we had a lot of good discussion around it and ultimately came to agreement around what do the questions look like that are on the survey. Again, that survey is open right now, and it'll be closing on the 15th. And the next step for the Calendar Review Committee is to reconvene on the 20th, take a close look at the input that we're getting from our community meetings, take a close look at the survey information, and for members to share any additional information that they've been gathering along the way. So that's the process. We're looking forward to reconvening on November 20th and looking at all the information. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Bauermeister.
Good evening. My first task is to talk about the collegiate calendar and the working definition that our group came up with. The reason why we came up with collegiate calendar, we talked about possibly calling it an earlier calendar, but if we called it an early calendar, it would really only be an early calendar that first year. And after that would just be our calendar. So we determined the name collegiate calendar, and there's two reasons why our working definition was called a collegiate calendar. The first is that we'd have a student start date prior to Labor Day. As Dr. Suhr said, we always start now the Tuesday after Labor Day, so the first component of a collegiate calendar is starting before Labor Day. The second point, and probably the most important, is that the first semester for secondary would end prior to winter break. And all colleges, they kind of start all over the place. Coastline and OCC both start, I believe, August 28th this year. The CSUs started about the 17th and the 22nd in that time frame, but they all end their semester at the winter break. So that was our working definition for a collegiate calendar. What we did is we looked at the 14 unified school districts in Orange County. Of the 14 unified school districts, 12 have that earlier start date before Labor Day. The only two that start after Labor Day are Newport, Mesa Unified and Laguna Beach, who are both in a process of looking at moving up their calendar. If we look at, If we look at the different start dates, you'll see Brea is at the 29th, which moves up their end date to June 15th. We have Garden Grove the 30th, which moves it up to 6/15. Los Al is 8/30, which is 6/14, but you'll look next year, they're moving to 8/8, so they're moving up quite a bit next year. Placencia Yorba Linda, 8/29, which is at the 14th. Saddleback, 8/28, which ends on the 14th. And Tustin, 8/22, which ends on 6/7. This is moving up a week. The problem with moving up a week with our definition, if we move up a week, then we wouldn't be able to end the first semester at winter break. So that's why in the survey we asked people about 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So schools that are in the 2-week time frame are, we have Capo at the 22nd, which ends on 6/7. We have Irvine the 24th, which ends at 6/8. Orange, 6/23, you'll see they're a week later, and that's because they have a 3-week break at their winter break. So that's why they're out a week later than those other schools that are in that time frame. And you'll see Tustin is the 2 weeks, and they're at 6/7 as well. We have a couple that start very early. Anaheim starts 8/9. And we actually, at the very bottom, our early college is on a collegiate calendar. And the reason why is because they have coastline classes as well. And so to take coastline classes, to be able to get their hours in for college, they had to start, and their coastline college classes had to start early, 8/9. So you see, we already have one school, but that kind of shows you of the unified school districts in Orange County that 12 of them are already on that early calendar. So the committee got together and decided on benefits, what the committee felt were benefits of a collegiate calendar. Now, I asked this question to them before we ever started, but I'll ask you as well. Is it possible for one thing to be a benefit to one stakeholder group but not be a benefit to another stakeholder group? It is, right? It could be a benefit maybe to kids and parents, but maybe not to teachers and employees. So these are the benefits that our committee came up with. You may not agree with them, but it's what they felt were benefits of the collegiate calendar. Now, the other thing, again, because we want to be honest with the information, and we didn't decide this ahead of time, but when we looked at all of the benefits on the back end, they're really all student benefits. They're all kid benefits, which we feel would be some family benefits as well. But they're really secondary school or kid and student benefits as well. So again, just to give you information, we felt that was important. So the first one is, as we talked about, the first semester would end prior to the winter break. And one of the benefits of that is we have kids right now, when they come back, they have 2 weeks in the second semester, then they take their finals. So there's a lot of kids that are studying over that time, especially the AP kids. They're doing projects over that time. And so if we could end that semester at the winter break, that would give the kids and the families a true break during that time before we start second semester. The other thing educationally, when we come back and there's only 2 weeks and then a test, a lot of teachers will be reviewing material. It's not really new material, and it's kind of a dead 3-week period there when we come back from vacation. The second bullet is additional instructional time prior to taking some assessments. The assessments we were talking about were the AP tests and the IB tests, which have a static date. The AP calendar is from May 7th to May 17th. It doesn't matter when you start school. So if we moved up school 2 weeks or 3 weeks, that would give our kids more instructional time before they take the test. So quantifiably, there would be more days of instruction before they took that test. Now, to give out information, again, we looked for some kind of studies that would show there was an academic benefit by doing that. We did not find any. Again, the committee felt that there would be more instructional days, so more time on task we felt would be a benefit. But just so you know, there's no research that says it doesn't, the early calendar harms kids, but there's no research that says it's an academic benefit. So I just wanted to be clear on that. The third bullet is a greater opportunity to participate in summer camps, obtain internships and summer jobs. So again, if you look, there are 12 unified school districts in the county that get out 2 or 3 weeks before us. So there's a lot of summer camp programs at Cal State Fullerton and Orange Coast College and different places that start in the middle of June that our kids would not have the opportunity to attend. Principal Scott the other night when we were at Colonel Del Mar said they have kids that actually check out of school sometimes, have to come back and take their finals in July and August for programs at Johns Hopkins and different universities on the East Coast. So it definitely hurts them. Also obtaining internships, again, when college kids are coming back, when those other 12 unified school districts and those kids are looking for internships, it kind of eats up those internships because there's a limited number. And the same thing with summer jobs. It's difficult for our kids when they get out so late to get summer jobs because the kids coming back from college or those other kids from around our surrounding districts take up a lot of those summer jobs. The last bullet is there's more time to complete college applications and obtain letters of recommendation. One of our windows was just November 1st, and I know I turned in a couple letters for students. And so, again, if we start school 2 or 3 weeks earlier, that gives our kids 2 or 3 weeks more access to their teachers, to their counselors, to their administrators to be able to get those letters written and get them turned in. And I'm sure Principal Halt and the counselors and the teachers will tell you there's always a crush at that deadline to get those in. And so having a couple extra weeks would benefit those kids and teachers. Athletic schedule will be aligned to a CIF Southern section. Most of the fall sports now start in the middle of August, their practices. They start playing their games August 20th, 21st, 22nd in there. We had one football team that played 3 games this year before school started. And so even though school doesn't start until after Labor Day, our athletes are coming back in the middle of August, which means their vacation ends, their family vacation ends. And so that aligning to the CIF calendar we feel would be a benefit to our families. On the back end, the latest that any of the CIF championships happen are June 2nd, baseball and softball. All of the others are done by the end of May. So getting out that first week in May then, again, would give our kids the ability to be in college programs, to be in college camps and those types of things, instead of getting there, after they've already been in their camps and programs for a couple weeks. Final transcripts would be provided to colleges in a timely manner. There's a lot of college transcripts that are now due July 1st. We ended school this last year, June 23rd. The grades are supposed to be in the next day. They don't always get in. So sometimes it's the next Monday, the 26th, and they have to be verified. The registrars have to get the transcripts out, and we did have a student that lost his admission to Berkeley because the transcript did not get there in time. The year before, we had 5 students at UC Santa Barbara. So we have had people that have lost admittance to colleges because the transcripts didn't get there in time. So that extra 2 or 3 weeks, again, would give our registrars more time to be able to get those transcripts to colleges. Provides greater opportunity for dual enrollment. Again, you saw those 12 school districts by us that start 2 or 3 weeks before us, and a lot of them have ROP classes that our students will take. So again, even though we don't start school till after Labor Day, they're starting those classes in the middle of August, or the third week in August, and lose that summertime. Same thing with our AP kids. A lot of them will have to do homework over the summer. They'll have to turn in their first assignment, or sometimes there's even tests on the first day of their AP classes because they're 2 or 3 weeks behind the rest of those school districts around us, playing catch up in those AP classes. And the last bullet is the ability to participate in June college orientations, events, and programs. We have kids every year that have to decide whether they're going to go to their high school graduation or their college orientation because they're at the same time. And so it's a real difficult decision for kids to have to make that decision. Also, as we said, there are bridge programs that some of our kids are not able to get into. There's summer classes that they aren't able to get into, and so it enables them to get into those classes that are now not available to them. So those are the benefits from the committee, and next we have Dr. Suhr with the concerns and questions.
Okay, so as Dr. Bauermeister shared with you, not only did our calendar review committee come up with a number of benefits that they believe are beneficial to our students, but also there were a number of questions that the calendar review committee has put together. The first one is, what percentage of students would benefit by shifting to a collegiate calendar? If you go with the assumption that all students are eventually going to be in grades 7 through 12, the benefit is 100% of the students would have a benefit of a collegiate calendar. We know that 92% of high school students move on to attend college. We know that 48% of our students participate in school athletics or band. And we also know that 36% of our students take AP and/or IB classes. One of the concerns that was brought forth by the calendar committee, one of the questions is there a concern with starting school earlier since some schools do not have air conditioning? Newport Mesa has been working on air conditioning since 2013. A number of schools have been completed in 2015, 2016, which has led us to a point where we now have 17 of the 32 schools completed. A part of that, not a part of the 17, but 2 schools that are 50% completed are Costa Mesa High School and Newport Harbor High School. We do not count those 2 schools as one of the 17, but both schools have about 50% of their classrooms with air conditioning. There is a phase-in plan to install air conditioning at all schools. If we are able to realize the completion of the plan, we anticipate that by summer of 2018, 6 more elementary schools will be completed. And also by the summer of 2019, all elementary schools would be completed along with Back Bay High School. So we know this is a concern, and that's the plan Newport Mesa has been working on. Again, there are issues associated with making sure that everything falls into alignment, that there's no financial crisis that were to occur or anything out of the ordinary that isn't planned that can happen as you're moving through with construction projects, but we are committed to air conditioning in all of our classrooms. Another question was, what would be the impact of a shortened summer break during the transition period? There are a lot of questions regarding how do all the different departments prepare for moving towards an earlier start in the school year. And we have district administrators, we have neighboring school districts, all with a lot of experience in regards to already having moved to a collegiate calendar, to starting school earlier. So we have a lot of resources to turn to, and one of the fundamental components of moving towards an earlier start in the school year is to bring all of your departments together, bring all the people that are working to make sure that there are no hiccups along the way, is to have a planning phase. So during that planning phase, if there was a recommendation, and if the employee bargaining units were to agree on an earlier start to the school year, there would be a planning phase. And we also know that it's really important for our school community to have notice of a shift in a calendar and starting earlier at least 12 months before the change were to occur. It would be ideal to have it be as soon as possible, but as far as notifying families of a potential change, but we would have to have at least 12 months notice in advance of a shift, if it were to occur. Another question is, what impact would the collegiate calendar have to summer programs? Right now, Newport Mesa offers an extensive amount of summer opportunities for our students, and we would be committed to having those continue during the summertime. And that's for students in elementary school as well as middle school and high school, so those would continue. And then some of the questions that the Calendar Review Committee was asking and really wanted us to explore was, what about our community partners? What about the city of Costa Mesa? What about the city of Newport Beach? What about the Newport Beach Junior Lifeguard programs? All of those programs operate during the summertime, and Dr. Bauermeister has reached out to the city of Costa Mesa. He has reached out to the city of Newport Beach. He has touched base with junior lifeguards, and all of those programs and people said that they would work with the district with a new shift in a calendar, again, if that were to occur. Even Newport Beach shared that right now, currently, they lose a lot of employees because many students have to go back to college, and it would actually help the Newport Beach city programs if there was an earlier start to the school year. So right now we have an open window of the Collegiate Calendar Survey. Something important to note is that we reached out to every school in elementary, middle school, and high school, and we asked them, because really our schools know their school community best in regards to what works best. Is it electronic surveys? Is it hard copy surveys? So we received information from all 32 of our schools in regards to how many hard copies of the survey would you like to have in English, how many in Spanish, and so those were printed out, and they're out at the school sites. They're starting to come in. So when we close down the window on November 15th, we will be compiling 2 sets of data, hard copy data that is coming from our parents and guardians, and also the electronic entries that the school community has entered. So again, that window is started on the 1st. It's going through the 15th. And that survey information, along with information from tonight and our previous 3 zone meetings that we've had, is all going to be brought back to the Calendar Review Committee on November 20th for us to continue the dialogue in regards to what recommendation does the Calendar Review Committee want to make.